The provisions in the Constitution are very clear on what one is required to have to meet the qualifications of running as a presidential candidate. The first, of course, is that you have to be a citizen by birth, not by naturalization. You have to be a Kenyan citizen by birth. You also have to have met the qualifications to be able to run as a member of parliament. More important, you also have to be a registered voter. If you're not a registered voter, you cannot run as a presidential candidate or a candidate at all in any position. You also need to have a nomination by a political party or be an independent candidate. In addition, which we have received from most of you, you must be able to be nominated by not fewer than 2,000 voters from each of a majority of the counties. This is, you need to have about 48,000 signatures. We have received some, we have not received some of them, but we'll get into the specific details with each of the aspirants at the appropriate time. In addition, one needs to hold a degree from a university recognized by the relevant ministry. The requirements that I have outlined also apply to the running mate, that is the person who will be running as a deputy president. What are the disqualifications? There are a number of disqualifications that the Commission, under the leadership of Chairman Chebukati, will be looking at very carefully as we look at your documents. The first is that if you do not owe allegiance, if you owe allegiance to a foreign state, then you do not meet the qualifications to run as a president. You should, if you're a public officer or acting in any state or other public office, let me just explain that this qualification, however, does not apply to a sitting president, a sitting deputy president, or a member of parliament. So if you're a deputy president, you are president, or you're a member of parliament, you are not disqualified, so you can run for the office of the president. Another criteria for disqualifying one is if one has participated directly or indirectly in any public fundraising, or what we commonly call harambe, within 8 months preceding a general election or during an election period. So if we have evidence from voters or from Kenyan people that you have participated in a harambe during that period, then there is a reason for you to be disqualified as a candidate. This disqualification, however, excludes fundraising for purposes of an election or if you're fundraising for a political party. So if you're fundraising for a political party or you're fundraising for yourself as an independent candidate, then you cannot be disqualified on those grounds. The next one is that we are guided by rule of law. So our laws or our constitution then provides that you will only be disqualified if all possibilities of appeal or review of a relevant sentence or decision regarding disqualification are fully exhausted. So after all those mechanisms of law have been exhausted, then you would be disqualified. But as long as there is an appeal ongoing, then our constitution provides that the due diligence has to be done on that. Then another disqualification that singularly applies to myself and Chairman Chebukati and other commissioners is that has at any time within the 5 years immediately preceding the date of election held office as a member of the Electoral Commission. Chairman, too bad for you. Then the next disqualification is that has not been a citizen of Kenya for at least 10 years immediately preceding the date of election. And then the last, not the last, but the next ones are that if you are of unsound mind, then you would be disqualified. Or if you are undischarged bankrupt, then you would also be disqualified. Also, if you are a subject of imprisonment of at least 6 months at the date of registration as a candidate or at the date of election, then you would be disqualified. Also, which is something that is very important to the chairman and to the commission, is that if you are found in accordance with any law to have misused or abused state office, or public office, or in any way you will have been deemed to have contravened Chapter 6 of the Constitution, then you would be disqualified. Then, lastly, if you have had all possibility of appeal or review of a relevant sentence or decision regarding your disqualification fully exhausted. So those are the qualifications that we've outlined and grounds for which one can be disqualified as a presidential candidate. I'd like to go through a few other important things. According to our laws, you need to have a proposer and a seconder. Regulation 38B of the Election General Regulation 2010 outlines that a proposer and a seconder for a political party shall be voters registered in the respective electoral areas. So they must be registered voters to be able to propose or second you. Then the Elections Act also stipulates that supporters have to be members of the candidate's political party. These are regulations related to those who are coming in as candidates from political parties. We have a different set of requirements for independent candidates. First, one cannot, for you to run as an independent candidate, you cannot be a member of a party. So you cannot be a member of a party, a political party, for at least 3 months immediately before the date of the election. And for that, I think you've already, for those who are running as independent candidates, you've already received the required papers from the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties confirming that you have not been a member of a political party 3 months immediately before the date of the election. So that is one of the documents that we've been looking at and reviewing. Then you've all submitted to us, independent candidates, a symbol which is required by law. You also are required to have 2,000 supporters who are not members of any party, but they must be registered voters from each of the majority counties. So you also require 48,000 signatures from at least 24 counties, but they cannot be members of political parties. We'll be checking that very carefully. You're also required to have a proposer and a seconder, and those shall be those people who are registered voters, but they also cannot be members of political parties. Those are the requirements that relate to independent candidates. Then you will have a series of forms that you'll be required to fill. So you have Form 12, nomination paper for presidential election. You have Form 13, which is a statutory declaration for purpose of nomination for election. I think you will find in your folders some of the samples, or you will be provided samples of those forms so that you know exactly what you're supposed to fill. Very important on the passport. We need to have passport size photos from all the aspirants, and we need 2 passport size photographs. And we need those provided both in hard copy and soft copy so that we can be able to upload them. And remember that those are the photographs that will be used on the ballot. So just be careful where you're taking the pictures on the background. We have seen some very interesting pictures in interesting places that you would not want to have that on your ballot. So please just make sure that the picture that you send to us is one that you would like the Kenyan people to identify you as. This means that it must be in a JPEG format, and it must be in color. The background must be white with no shadows. The photo size must have a maximum size of 1 MB. The resolutions must be 1028 by 768 pixels, right? Is that correct? Immaculate, is that correct? The dimensions? Okay. Sorry?
Repeat the dimensions.
The dimensions are 1028 times 768 pixels. The aspect ratio of the camera should be 4:3. The photo must be of portrait orientation. So I really need to emphasize this because we have already seen some of the pictures, and we just want to be sure that you send what is accurate, what is required, so that we don't send you back. I think that is. Immaculate reminds me that the presentation will be shared so that you have all the information, so that you read and you know exactly what you are required to have, so that ukija KICC tarehe 28 ama tarehe 29 tusije tukakurudisha. But I think there's one more point that I really need to emphasize here today. On chapter 6, I will emphasize it again here. The chairman has set up a committee, and chapter 6 integrity committee that brings together various actors, that brings together the EACC, the Commission on Higher Education, that brings together those who are charged with the responsibility of checking on your bankruptcy status, those that have been given the responsibility of checking whether you're of sane mind. I don't know whether they are part of it. But we just want to, we don't want this to come as a surprise to anybody, that we will be looking at all these qualifications and that you are still aspirants until the time that you are declared candidates. And that all these provisions that are there in the Constitution, we'll be looking at them very carefully. We will be looking at your signatures very, very carefully to make sure that they meet the requirements of the law. And we'll be looking at all the documents, including the university degrees that are required for aspirants and their deputies, so that we make sure that we are meeting the expectations of our Constitution and our laws.